And welcome to the second half of our day night doubleheader here. Actually, a day apart of conversations this week. Had a great time yesterday with Frank Miramonte, who wasn't able to quite link up our next guest on the program for yesterday, as he was flying to Edmonton with the Florida Panthers for the beginning, where he'll be doing the color analysis on the radio broadcast of the Edmonton Oilers Florida Panthers Game One rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals. We had a great time with Frank yesterday, and I was telling as we welcome to the show, the architect maybe of the greatest goal, and I've embellished this over the years in the history of the Florida Panther franchise. The great Bill Lindsay joins us here on the program. Bill, how are you, my friend?
Good, doing good, Defo, out here in Edmonton. Sunny day. It's supposed to be around 75 degrees out here in Edmonton, which is balmy this time of year. And we're getting ready for that rematch, which has got all the elements of a making of another tremendous Stanley Cup final.
I was telling my friend Frank Miramonte, who's now the race caller at Santa Anita and will be calling the Belmont Stakes on Fox TV as the regular race caller at Saratoga, that when I saw his humble beginnings in a million years, I could have never, as much faith as I had in him, have imagined that he would hold those two positions, which are as prestigious as any in that particular genre as you could possibly find. And I'm thinking the same thing about three straight Stanley Cup finals. You were part of the original franchise with the Florida Panthers. They came in as an expansion team, did okay, had that center ice trap. Roger Nielsen was dragging people through the and of the red line there. They had to change the rules. The strategy was so easy, but it worked, and you guys were able to compete with the best of the best, got to a Stanley Cup final. But in your wildest imagination, Bill Lindsay, could you have envisioned a Florida franchise? We saw it with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but now a second one going to three straight Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, we went through some bad times. We got off that good start, and hockey was pretty hot down here. Then a lot of down years. You got to fail to succeed. Mr. Viola, the ownership, comes in with a commitment here, bought into the team, and they made sure that they got people into positions to succeed, from the general manager to the coach to the scouting staff. They got it all figured out, and everyone has a, much like back in the early 90s when we got assembled, everyone has a defined role here with this team. You know exactly what's expected of you. Nothing out of that. Do your job, do it exceptionally well. You're going to be around. And that's kind of the mandate from the ownership all the way down to the players, GM, whoever is involved. And because of that, you have gotten this great success. We're in the golden era of Panther hockey. And I have to kind of pinch myself at times to really understand, Defo, how to cherish every second. It was so long. And okay, well, we're here again. Good. We expect it. That you almost become expecting of it. I have to really kind of reset and just really soak everything in and cherish, because you never know when you might experience this again, if ever.
Well, it's been a great evolution also. Even over the last 3 years, there are some people that are of the frame of mind that, and we've heard this, I guess, coming from inside the Panthers dressing room, possibly, where some speculated that if they ran back the same squad that they had last year that won the Stanley Cup, they wouldn't necessarily be in this position today. I don't know how you feel about that, but I keep my favorite thing in covering sports all of these years, Bill Lindsay, has been to witness front office ingenuity. And there wasn't necessarily anything awful going on. I mean, we had Dale Talon there for a long time, highly respected, well regarded by hockey insiders, and did some good things, but it wasn't quite enough. And then this Bill Zito, have you ever seen anything like it in your years in hockey? I mean, this goes all the way back to the early 90s. Did you ever imagine a guy could be – he's like a magician. He just pulls another player out of his pocket at the trade deadline, it seems like, every year.
Yeah, he's been a magician with what he does, starting with Gustav Forsling off waivers. The trade for Reinhardt, the big one, was Tkachuk, and that really changed after that President's Trophy season, changed their identity to Paul Maurice, what he wants, dump and chase, and Tkachuk was a big factor into kind of changing the whole DNA of this team. What Paul Maurice wants, dump it in, forecheck, heavy pressure. Now you got the captain Barkov, everyone to buy into that system. And at the trade deadline, it was Tarasenko last year. He fit in perfectly. All of a sudden, you're a little weak on defense. You go out and get Seth Jones, big, rangy. Many people thought he had lost his step. He's able to come into the dressing room. Bill Zito evaluates between the analytics, between the players, and does he fit into our dressing room? It's a round peg into a round hole. And they definitely knew that with Brad Marchand, a captain of an original six team. The way that he plays, he's going to fit into this group. And it's a nasty, mean, hard style that's going to come after you. Win or lose, we're going to try and take a piece of you with us. So that's kind of the mindset. So Bill Zito, there, and that goes to the scouting staff, everyone. It goes through so many layers before, okay, yes, we're going to land on that player. He's going to fit. And he does exactly that. Everything that he touches so far has worked into pure gold for the Panthers.
Bill Lindsay, our special guest here on Conversations, as we went into little ponies and pucks this week. And, of course, the series gets underway tonight to decide who's going to win the Stanley Cup Championship, which many speculate, and I think correctly so, is the most difficult of team championships to go ahead and achieve because of the bloodbath that each series seems to be, which this one figures to be even more of the same. It's a rematch. And I thank you very much for easing some of my early guilt here on the program, Bill, because I thought, we were waking you up with a 3-hour time difference, that it was 7:30 where you are, and it's 8:30.
Yeah, we're up and rolling.
I'm thinking you just got to Edmonton last night, so normally you would travel to a city, probably go out, and chill out a little bit after the long flight. But is there anything to do in Edmonton? I guess would be the magic question. I don't feel as bad about waking you up this morning.
No, we got a little some restaurants around our hotel. I can look out my window right here. Here's the hockey rinks down below. So I just got across one street and I'm over at the rink. I grew up in Western Canada a lot, so on the border of Alberta and British Columbia. I'm familiar with Edmonton. It's a pretty city in the summer. It gets cold in the winter, and it's flat. It's prairie land. It's oil country. That's why they call it Oilers.
Yes.
So there's not a lot, and they live and breathe and die hockey here. It's every breath they take is around the Oilers, especially in the Stanley Cup. I will give it this much: that building over there, if that roof stays on it, it's got a strong roof because This is loud. I experienced it last year. It is the loudest rink that I've been to, and their fans are outrageous. So we'll have to see. The Panthers do not have home ice in this Stanley Cup final. They got to start on the road. They've been really good on the road, but their mettle will be tested in these first couple of games against Connor McDavid, the world's best player, and this Oiler fan base and that whole group of Oiler team that seems a little bit more well-rounded and deeper than last year.
All right. Well, then you would be good to be able to decipher whatever the feeling is around Edmonton about the hockey club going in. They were defeated. They were down 3-0 in the series last year, came back with a couple of blowouts, and then extended it to a wild and hotly contested seventh game where they end up falling one goal short of what they were trying to achieve, or at least getting into a position where they could have won the cup. McDavid's never won one. What is the feeling around Edmonton? Have you been able? I know you've only been there a day, but you've been there previously and during the season, of course, covering the team. What's their sense? I mean, it was another one of those seasons where early on, I mean, they fired their coach last year before they got to the Stanley Cup Finals after a slow start, and they didn't exactly light the world on fire at the beginning of this season, as I recall.
No.
The two teams have met twice previously, and the Panthers won both in the regular season. I'm not sure how much meaning you attach to that. But what are these fans, if you can sense it? I mean, what's on the news coverage? Are they feeling like this is going to be an opportunity for sweet revenge, or what level of concern do they have?
Yeah, they're feeling here in Edmonton. It's Oilers everywhere. They want to get back into this. They want to be here. Connor McDavid, he wants to be in this position again. He wants to win a Stanley Cup championship here in Edmonton. And you talked about their early struggles, but they've been able to piece it together here in the second half in the playoffs. And their coach now, Chris Knobloch, has done a phenomenal job just kind of balancing out this roster where McDavid and Draisaitl don't play together a lot. Last year in the playoffs, you had to throw them together. They were the majority of the offense. Their defense is so much better. They made a trade for this kid, Jake Wallman, who is really, really good. This Matthias Ekholm, who's been a staple on their blue line, was injured for most of the playoffs, came back in their last game. So they got a better defensive core and a more well-rounded group up front, and they got some veterans that are sitting out. I went through the last 4 years, and the productions with McDavid and Draisaitl either scoring a goal or getting a point throughout the last 4 years in the playoffs. The best they got from the surrounding cast when they weren't in on anything was from 38% of the team. This year, it is at 61% is accounting for the offense. Only 42 of that percent is coming from McDavid and Draisaitl, which is a massive, massive turnaround when you look at this group in general, where that load they had to carry so much. When you're carrying 60% minimal of the offense, that's a hard to bear. That's why there's hope here in Edmonton, because all of a sudden it has been balanced out, and the underlying support and the players, they're getting it. So it's going to be a really, really stiff challenge.
All right. You hear a lot about Connor McDavid, and rightfully so. People would say, and I don't know that you get a ton of pushback on it, that he's the best player in the NHL today. And having watched a good portion of their postseason run so far, which began with a couple of losses to the LA Kings, made them look very suspect, and they've stormed back. McDavid, even though he hasn't got a big total of goals so far in the postseason, one that stands out was that clincher, the game winner that took place against the Dallas Stars. As the Stars had battled back, they were putting immense pressure on Skinner. Looked like they were going to come back from a 3-0 deficit, tie the game, and extend the series even. And then McDavid, as a guy draped all over him, he takes him on his back down the ice as if he was Jim Brown running a football. And then manages to make an incredible stick maneuver to get the puck to his backhand side, flips it in over the goaltender, and that was that. It became 4-2. How good is this guy? I mean, in your opinion, Bill Lindsay, does he stand out? Is he in a separate category? We know there are a lot of great players in the National Hockey League, but where would you put McDavid now, and in terms of all-time perspective?
All time, if he wins cups, he's going to be in the top 5 all time of history to ever play the game. He's that good. You got to have some of that hardware and silverware to back it up, and that's why this is year number 10 for McDavid, and he's starting to feel that pressure. Been here once and again, and that's kind of what makes you a little bit tepid going into this series. If you go back in any great player in sports, whether it's Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, or even individually Tiger Woods, they just have a will kind of to drag themselves or their team kind of through this finish line. It's like a video game with Connor McDavid, or if you ever watched Pee Wee hockey and you just point on that kid and you say, wow, that one kid on the ice is so much better than everyone else.
Yeah.
That at this level, that is there are games you point out and say that guy is so much better. He belongs in a different league. Well, there's no other league to go to. He's already playing in the best league in the world. Skill set, fast, reads the game well, does everything, and he's just to watch him play and go full flight live. It's just mind-boggling, and he's the greatest of our sport right now. He is a legend. He will go down as one of the all-time greatest players to ever play the game, and you have to contain him. You're not going to stop him totally. And what the Panthers did last year in the games they won, they contained him. And then when they got going, Edmonton won those 3 straight. McDavid and Draisaitl, they just got let off the leash. And you talk about horse racing. Well, they were galloping, and they were trying to get across that finish line with that late push, and we hung on by a nose. So that comes down into this series. He's off the charts. He does everything spectacularly well, but it's just most noticeably the speed and the hands, and he's 2 steps of everybody else when he's playing that game.
All right, and you mentioned, and you had to mow down your share of Giants in that 95-96 run, as you had to go against Lemieux and Jágr in the final series against Pittsburgh, and of course Philadelphia with Lindros. Yeah. And it wasn't like Boston was any slouch, the team that you put away and put to sleep before Melanie started everybody, and had Melanie throwing rats all over the place. But so what do you do? I mean, you mentioned to contain him. Is that easier said than done? Because he was somewhat quiet, in especially the first 3 games of the series last year. Can you come at him with the same strategy from a coaching standpoint? What do you do in a situation where you're facing a guy of that magnitude who also, as you said, all of a sudden has a little bit more of a supportive cast?
Yeah, this is it's a kind of the great showdown here. Is the West plays with a little bit more speed and pace, and the defense, and it's a little bit more defensive structure over in the East. And we got one of the best defensive teams that I've seen in the NHL in a long, long time. That's led by Alexander Barkov. Won the Selke Trophy the other day for the top defensive forward in the league. That matchup against McDavid. Yes, they can shut him down, but it's that old cliche, time and space. You just can't give him room to operate. And if he gets going and just has a little step, he's able to push you back, then you're in a bit of trouble. And when the Panthers have gotten in trouble in these playoffs, it's been speed that's kind of hurt them in the Toronto series, Carolina at times, and even going back in that first round. We did an excellent job against Tampa Bay, but this is going to be our toughest test. And they play a wing lock through the neutral zone, but it's going to rely heavily on the forechecking pressure that this Panther team puts on the defense. If they're able to get those cleanups and find that late speed with McDavid, it becomes hard. So we'll see the matchups. But what you have to do is you've got to be close to him. Every time he touches the puck, gap control, defenseman up, and just get him frustrated. And you can make the star players frustrated if you don't give them that ice that they want, and they start doing uncharacteristic things. We saw that back when I played at Lemieux, Yager. If you pushed them a little bit too hard, they were kind of got out of their element. And that's the same of the sort of thing that you want to try with McDavid. Just get him out of his element, make him uncomfortable. And if there's one team that can make him uncomfortable, it's the Panthers.
And they've handled that situation well. They won in the Stanley Cup against the Oilers last year, and of course 2-0 during the regular season this year. All right, let's examine a couple of categories here and see who you think has the edge, or where you see any kind of advantage. Goaltending naturally is going to be beyond a huge factor. Bobrovsky's been playing well enough. In spots, he drives you crazy. He'll let in some so-called greasy goal and then make a series of sensational stops and keep the team in the game when the other team finally gathered some momentum and was swarming them a little bit. We have a 10. I guess Pickard is back. He was injured. Is he back with Edmonton?
Yeah, he's backing up though. Skinner's going to get the duties again. Skinner's
Okay.
the more athletic netminder. Pickard did a good job. He went undefeated in that. He went down with an injury. Skinner came back. Skinner's got a bigger upside. You talked about Bobrovsky though, some frustrations in that with the ups and downs. Talk to Oilers fans about Stuart Skinner, their goaltender.
Yeah.
It's like a box of chocolates there. You just don't know what you're going to get. It could be stellar and it could be really bad at times. And recently, against the Stars and coming into this series, he's playing his best hockey. That is going to be a big measuring stick on the Oilers side. Can Skinner make the saves? He does have a huge upside. There are times when he gets swimming in the net, but if you're talking about advantages, the veteran Sergei Bobrovsky's been there, knows to dial it in at the right time, whether it could be a game that's 4-4. He's given up 4 goals, maybe a couple of softies, but when it's on the line, I want Bobrovsky behind me. I want him because he has the ability to make the key save at the big time, and it's been proven over and over again.
Yeah, and he's got strong numbers, 2.11 goals against in the postseason so far, 912 save percentage, a couple of fluke goals. It seems like the puck's in a pinball machine sometimes in front of the net, and those are the ones they bounce in off his own player's skate or whatever that seemed to get by him, and then he'll make a series of stops on near breakaways or odd man rushes, and you're thinking, my God, this guy's becoming a Patrick Waugh. So we'll see who shows up there. What do you make of the coaching matchup? How important is it to you in terms of the overall performance of a team? Who's behind the bench? Knobloch came in, did a good job, turned the team around, got him to the finals last year. He's got him back in the finals this year. Relatively new young coach, but appears to have gotten the right approach out of his players. And Paul Maurice, I don't know about you, Bill Lindsay. I've never misjudged a guy in the sporting world as badly as I did Paul Maurice. I thought this guy was just flatlining out there when he first took over behind the bench with the Panthers. You're asking yourself, why would you ever go out and hire the guy who's lost more NHL games than anybody else? It's not like we were, bringing back Scotty Bowman or something. But even though he had a lot of wins, he'd been around a while. He didn't seem to say anything. He didn't really display that much personality. I've never been more dead wrong about a guy in my life. We thought he was the French Joe Philbin. It turns out the guy's like, a great, wise, philosophical character, and at the same time, he's got a little Joe Pesci in him and some fire.
Yeah, he's a mastermind. He's been at it a long time. It got a little stale there in Winnipeg for him with the team there, and he got rejuvenated. And when he came down to South Florida, this is no knock on Winnipeg, but it's tough in the winters. You don't get to see a lot of daylight, and all of a sudden you get down here and you get to see the sunshine looking out of your office, and you're sparked with this new group. It kind of re-energized Paul Maurice and the coaching strategy, and he was on the same page with what he wanted to do. He had a clear-cut plan, which was really, when we won the President's Trophy with Huberdeau and all those guys, it was run and gun and fast, and Paul Maurice knew you're not going to win in the playoffs that way. So he changed the dynamic of the team. It's been an awesome coaching job. The players love him. They buy into him. He's able to tap into the resources, and it's a hard style to play. It's demanding. But what has really helped here is you've got a self-containing dressing room, much like we did in '96. You got leadership throughout that room with Marchand coming on board, Kachuk, you got Barkov, you got Ekblad, you got Reinhardt, who's a scientist. Everyone's going to pull on the rope in the same direction. So once everything's in place, he just has to make minor adjustments. He's one of the best that I have seen making in-game adjustments and game-to-game adjustments as far as what you have to do in a matchup. So going into this on the other side against Chris Knoblauch, they're going to have home ice advantage. They're going to get McDavid out there in spots. That will be telling. But that's where Lundell, Luostrian, Marchand, that third line is really capable defensively, very good offensively. They're okay if they get trapped out there against a McDavid line, not having Barkov out there. The one, so it's really good. I have no qualms, no issues. Paul Maurice, everyone's bought in. Chris Knoblauch, you have to pay attention, even though they have gotten that depth production. If they get down in games, and what happened last year is that there's a little bit of a panic button with Knoblauch to go to Draisaitl and McDavid, put them on the same line. They're not on the same line. They've been able to keep them separated, balance out that scoring. I'm interested to see if they get down 2-1, 2-0 into the second period. Does he shorten that bench and all of a sudden put Draisaitl and McDavid together? If you start to see that happen constantly in this series, then you know, okay, there's an issue over there on the Edmonton side. They're starting to panic a little bit, and that's what played out last year. So I'm interested to see how Knoblauch handles his bench, how deep he goes into his rotation, and how much he trusts it. He's going to have to trust those players even being down, I firmly believe, if he wants success. But he's gotten the most. Paul Coffey, Hall of Fame defenseman, also behind the bench. Their defense is a lot better this year, that defensive core on Edmonton. So it's going to be a really dynamic offense with a good defense on the other side, and we're going to have a good offense with a really dynamic defense on our side, kind of going toe-to-toe. But coaching matchup and the decisions they make shift to shift, period to period, game to game, will have some relevance.
How much bad blood is out there? I mean, they played against each other last year. Heartbreak for Edmonton, thrill of the century for the Florida Panther franchise, winning their first ever championship. Now going back-to-back. Edmonton, as you said, I would imagine, I don't know how deep this goes in the dressing room with the Edmonton Oilers, but you would think all of these guys don't want to be responsible for or even part of the conversation later in life when their grandchildren are on their knees and they said, boy, you're the one guy that prevented McDavid from winning a championship. How dicey does it get out there, Bill, Lindsay, especially as you start a series like this? Because, listen, I mean, everybody wants to assert themselves and establish that they're going to set the pace. So how much bad blood is going to be boiling over from last year and at the start of the outset of the series tonight?
It'll start quick. That's a good thing.
It doesn't take much time in hockey, right?
No, but you only play the Oilers twice during the regular season.
Yeah.
And when you get to a Stanley Cup, after you see all these, sometimes if you're going against an opponent that you've never seen, it takes a while to kind of build that animosity. And you're used to the Torontos and you've seen them. You don't like them. You played them 4 or 5 times during the regular season. You played them in the playoffs a bunch. So having this back-to-back scenario against the same team is very helpful. I firmly believe if you're trying to win back-to-back Stanley Cups, because that's already integrated on both sides. They're going to come out there. They're not going to like what happened last year, and the Panthers have that same thing. So you're immediately engaged. You know the task at hand. You're the spotlight all around. There's no out-of-town games. You're the focus, and when that focus gets out there, the bad blood just kind of boils up really quickly. And you pay attention to the first 10 minutes tonight. You're going to have to try and withstand that because it's going to be like an avalanche rolling downhill with the crowd and the Oilers for those first 10 minutes and trying to get through that. And that's where then you'll start to see the chippiness and you'll start to see the gloves in the face, which don't smell so good, and a little back and forth. So it's got it. And this Edmonton team does have some pushback, which is interesting. Sometimes we play some teams and we know we're kind of the bullies in this series.
Right.
In this series against Edmonton, it's going to test your will. And to win a Stanley Cup, you got to have skill, but you also have to have a lot of will. Skill and will put together makes for a great outcome, and that's what has made this Panther team so special. You're going to see a bit of everything in this series.
All right, you're on a team plane flying out there yesterday. That team's been great on the road throughout the postseason, maybe even a tick better than they've been at home. due to the fact that you would normally give a big advantage, a big edge to home ice, but that doesn't hold up historically in the National Hockey League. Number one, Bill Lindsay, why is that the home ice isn't as much of an advantage? Is it just sort of the abstract nature of the bounce of the puck and the way the game is contested? Or you would think with the noise level in these arenas, Dallas, I mean, just unbelievable. It was like being at a concert at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And yet it wasn't enough to get them out of the conference finals again as Edmonton made their way. But what was the feeling that you got? Do you sense any difference in the way the team was as they headed out to Edmonton and get ready for tonight's game? And why isn't home ice more of an advantage in the NHL?
Well, here's the one main reason. I'll go back. We played in the old Buffalo Auditorium, the old Maple Leaf Garden, Montreal Forum. You could go to, but the rink is 200 feet long and 85 feet wide. Yeah. And all these new buildings, everything's standardized. The visiting dressing rooms, you walk in, they're immaculate. Right. So when I went to Buffalo, we were dressing in the shower stall. It was so small. And then you got on some of these rinks, and they may have been 190 feet long and only 75 feet wide. The old Boston Garden was tiny, and they had this big team, and you're running all over you. So they had different rink dimensions and bad dressing rooms and obnoxious fans that could get a lot closer to you and scream at you. So now you go onto the road, and now you got the sleep science studies. You got the eating, the preparedness. It's so detailed with everything that you're trying to do. You know you're going to play on the same size rink. You're going to walk into a really comfy, cozy dressing room, even though it's not your own. I believe that somewhat plays into why you're not seeing this great home and road disparity and why you can have success on the road, even if that crowd is loud on the other side. And if you have the ability in the playoffs to get leads on the road, you will get silent nervousness out of a crowd where it doesn't become loud, but it becomes nervous and quiet. And you can almost feel that eeriness and throughout the building if you're a player. So once you get that success on the road and have tasted it, the Panthers have a real big blueprint that they spent a ton of time on just to be put into this situation to know, okay, if we're playing in Alaska, we're playing in Florida, we're playing in Edmonton. If you drop the puck anywhere, our style and our game is going to work.
All right. You've been in this situation, game one, Stanley Cup final, when you took on with your 95-96 Panthers, the Colorado Avalanche, a monster team, by the way. Yeah. This one, you would think, and you guys were underdogs in every series, and it was a remarkable Cinderella run. And in fact, it almost felt like you won all of these years. I mean, to tell this story, it's such a feel-good story. It didn't matter that who remembers Ulf Samuelsson, or the fact that it ended up being a sweep and that we all hated Patrick Waugh after that. No matter what he did in life, he could have been the most charitable individual ever. Panther fans would have been ready to fire a bunch of rats at his head. But what's the feeling as a player? And what are these guys going to be feeling tonight? Even the guys that have been around for a while. You mentioned McDavid. You don't think of him as a 10-year veteran, but what are they feeling as the anthem is playing for their respective team's country as they take the ice tonight?
The best nerves and butterflies that you can experience. You've dreamed of it since you're a kid. So you go out there, but the one area that you have to look at it too is opportunity. And the old Billie Jean King phrase, pressure is a privilege. You've got into this situation, you've dreamed of it. You can't play with fear. You have to go. You have to believe that you're going to have to be the hero, but your whole body's alive. It's a hard sensation, Defo, for me to kind of explain. It's kind of like there's certain times that you go throughout your life where you're just totally engrossed in a moment that is just so got your attention. And I believe it's being the most, whether it's having a kid or your marriage day, you can recall those moments down to a T.
I don't remember all three of those.
Or whatever, but there's whatever, you understand.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But there's if it's remarkable and it's understanding, there's certain things that stand out, and this is it for a player. You'll walk onto that ice and you'll have just such vivid recall of that national anthem, of that first puck drop. You're alive as an athlete. You're fulfilled, and it's the best feeling that you could ever wish for or hope for. to be part of. So that's what you'll be going through. And as these moments build up and they go game by game, even off the ice, you're just kind of in a particular zone that is so narrow-minded and so focused. It's the best feeling. I can't describe it totally out there, but it's the best feeling you could ever have as an athlete.
I got a little afraid for our Florida Panthers here, and of course, very much behind what they're doing, and love this after years of seeing them. And I don't know how you did it all those years in the broadcast booth, whether you're doing TV or radio. And the great thing about doing radio is you get to continue through the Stanley Cup Finals on the broadcast. So, and I can feel your enthusiasm coming through for an anticipation for the series. But I mean, it's great that you're still involved with this thing. One of the things. I mean, what in your opinion will be the number one deciding factor in this? You would say the common themes would be, as you said, contain McDavid, goaltending, but. Do you see something else out there, Bill Lindsay, that you think is ultimately going to decide the series? Because what I was going to say, I'm afraid I was on another show with a bunch of South Florida broadcasters, including the great Tony Segreto, legendary broadcaster. Everybody has the Panthers in 6. Now, I know these guys are not exactly putting FanDuel out of business, so I'm thinking I don't know. I don't know of anybody that could just with certainty look you in the eye. I can feel your confidence too in what's going to happen, and say I know who's going to win this series. But what do you think will be ultimately the deciding factors?
Close games. Can you win close games? The 1-goal games.
Yeah.
Tight in the third period. There might be some overtime games. Are you able to prevail? The margin for error. Do you make the mistake at the wrong time? Who blinks when it matters most? It's that going to be that kind of close between these two teams. I believe it's going to come down to a mistake or a goaltending error or something goes wrong or a play that you shouldn't make that someone is able to jump on and capitalize at the right time. And just you look back at the series and says that's a defining moment. You go back to the Toronto series, we're down two games coming back home. We're down 3-1 in the second period. We get the lead, but it still goes to overtime. Brad Marchand scores the overtime winner. It's 2-1 instead of 3-0. That's a defining moment. There. That's one that sticks out. That same sort of thing is going to happen here in this type of series. You are going to have certain saves or a certain twist of fate at a certain time that you'll look back and say, there, right there. That was one, and you'll see maybe two of the biggest moments that's why we won the Stanley Cup. And everyone's saying the Panthers in 6. This is the first time, Defo, in 40 years that there's been a team going for a back-to-back championship that has been the underdog, betting favorites in Vegas. So we are the underdogs coming out on the betting line, and that's the first time that has happened in 40 years. So this is not no slam dunk for sure. The Panthers are the underdogs, and they're going to cherish that role going into the series.
Players always say, I don't listen to sports talk. I don't read the papers. I don't do this. I don't do that. But in this age of just a thorough saturation of betting opportunities and organizations, are the players aware that they're underdogs in the series? And in what way, if at all, does that impact their approach?
Yeah, they're aware. Kachuk mentioned it yesterday. He said, we love the role. Yeah, we're underdogs. That's okay. We'll come in and we'll try and prove our worth. But that gives you a little extra snarl when you're trying to repeat. Going back, everyone expects Edmonton to win, Connor McDavid to get his flowers, and just ride out on the sunset. And there's no. I rooted for sports and legendary play. I rooted for Wayne Gretzky back in the day. The Islanders were dominating, and Gretzky finally got his title. And I was like, wow, yeah. So I can understand the other side of it, why people want to see McDavid on the Mount Rushmore of hockey, and this is part of that. But you want to be the spoiler. He's got out of the other years and do it, and that's where your focus comes into this other series. Okay, everybody kind of wants this. We got to stay here in this dress room and tight and kind of show everyone we are the champs. You still have to beat us and go through us. And if you want to, you're going to have to win it because we are not going to give it to you.
It was never popular in the newspapers when the various writers, they used to have like 10 guys on the Dolphin beat. I think you probably, what were around here then when the Herald and the Sun Sentinel actually had people covering teams. And and now I guess even in a regular season, nobody sends anybody out on a regular basis to cover a Stanley Cup defending champion team, which shows you what's happening in that business. But one of the things that was always awkward was when the different writers that were on the Dolphin beat had to predict who was going to win the game in the Sunday paper. So I know that your natural lean would be that the what do you see? I mean, even in terms of the number of games, do you see this thing going a distance?
Yeah, it can play out all kinds of different ways. If we get a split here in Edmonton, it's
Okay.
going long. That has to be the key out of the gate. Especially you get game one, you want to be greedy and get game two, go back home. But the split 1-1. If we come out of Edmonton here 1-1, you even down 2-0, it still has a chance to go long if we go back home. But if you get the split here and the way that it lines up, you're into 6-7 games. It just looks like it has to go 6 or 7 again this year against this Edmonton team, and 4 or 5 just seems so unlikely on either side. It could happen, yes, just highly unlikely. We'll be down to no nail. I will be anyway. We'll be down to no nails on the fingers by the time we're done with
All right.
this.
How many years has it been, Bill? Because you started out on the TV side. Have you been with the organization continuously since you retired as a player?
Yeah, which is crazy. So it's either 18 or 19
Wow.
years now. Well, but broadcasting and working at NHL Network and doing the TV radio with the Panthers. So that's a dream come true. Not only to get back into hockey, but to come back to South Florida, a place that I just love. It's home. I've always kept my home there, and my wife loves it. We love everything about it. So to come back to play, I think this is my 31st or 32nd year involved with the National Hockey League, and 27 or 28 of those 32 years now belong to the Florida Panthers, which is it's just a dream come true. I'm walking through it, living proof to get down there and to see this team win a Stanley Cup, to get another chance. I will be eternally grateful for every opportunity that has been afforded me to walk this walk and talk and be along. And I know we're a niche market in South Florida, but we've been a big part of it and we're growing. So it's been truly one of the greatest gifts of my lifetime to be involved with South Florida, the people, and this hockey team.
All right, a couple of more things. Now, I grew up with a transistor radio, listening to Ranger games being called by Marv Albert, and then later the guy that I thought was, as good as anybody, the great late Win Elliott, what was a tremendous announcer on a radio, and I don't remember if they even had a color analyst on the radio broadcast then. So I'm driving during the game. I left a place between periods to drive back home. Some bar I was watching the game at up in Deerfield, and
that's right. Yeah, that's where I live.
I was at
We're
the Tipperary pub of all places, and they had the game on in the background. I had a band playing, so I leave, and now I turn the game on the radio, which I'm rarely in my car, being an old geezer at this time, driving around at that hour of the night. But and you guys are on the broadcast, and man, the pace of this thing is incredible, Bill. I don't know. It has to be a huge differential when you went from being a color analyst on TV to the radio. Because first of all, look, it's hard to jump in while the guy's doing the play-by-play, and yet you guys were right on it. I mean, that puck's flying around. It's Doug Plagans. He does a great job, and I don't know how he was able to keep pace. How the hell do you do it, Bill Lindsay? Because it's not an easy call on the radio, I don't think.
No, it's not. Especially, the play-by-play guy's got to be spot on because he's got to give you that visual picture to going through. It's a different medium for a color guy. Or if you're doing TV, you got plenty of time. People can see the game. The play-by-play guy can take a breath. He knows it's in the neutral zone. You can give your explanation. On radio, you got to let him run for the most part. When there's stoppages go, or maybe there's just a dull moment, you got to be quick. You got to be in and out as an analyst. And I sit by. I've worked with Goalie. I've worked with Plagans now, Doug Plagans, and Plagans is one of the best. I'm just amazed at some of these play-by-play guys that just never miss a beat, never miss a word. And to go, it's a true elite skill to be a play-by-play guy. And they, of course, can do other sports. seen, as you talked about, Marv Albert and all the great Jim Nantz or whatever. You can see that they've called multitude of sports, but hockey is probably the hardest, just because boom, 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 and on radio, you got to be right on top of it. And sitting next to Doug and watching him do his thing, it makes my job pretty darn easy. I'm impressed with him every step of the way, and I just try and help out and try and paint the picture when there's some stoppages in play, and to describe it as well as I can, to hopefully you get a visual out there in your mind. Okay, well, I can kind of understand what's happening through the radio. That's our job, and it's been fun to work on both sides of it. The TV side, to just see that, and then also the color side of doing it on radio. And I've got to work at NHL Network for 10 years and do studio shows. So the background of all that is, it's been a wild journey just to see all the different mediums that you can have. Yeah, so the radio one is one that you got to be on top of, and we try and do our best. And I know Plagans gives his absolute best, and I just try and be a supporting cast to him, and no, he doesn't screw anything up. I try not to do it behind him.
Oh, you do great. And this guy, I had to pull over. I was sweating. I had to dry myself off. The pace, it was incredible. And I'm thinking, could I do that? I mean, I was fairly versatile as a play-by-play guy doing different sports over the years, and a sports talk host or whatever. But I'm thinking, I could not do that. I mean, that was really, really remarkable. All right, so people, I guess, Bill Lindsay, are coming to you for advice what to do on the off day in Edmonton with your Western Canada roots. What constitute a great day off in Edmonton in between games? Hopefully, with the Panthers up 1-0.
Well, they got Big River here, which is one bright side. So you can walk down by the riverside if you want to take a stroll, and they do have the golf courses open. I got a friend out here actually that I played junior hockey with that I might just go play some golf with, a light round of golf, and grab some dinner. And once the weather gets decent out here, everyone gets outdoors immediately.
Is it only like for a day or two that it's like this, or I mean? Oh, well, I went to Syracuse, and literally there was like one day of summer, and that was it. It would go right back to freezing, but.
Yeah, well, it has that potential. It could be 75 and it could snow tomorrow, but we're supposed to have 3-4 days up here in Edmonton over 70 degrees, which is going to be perfect. It might snow when we leave and might snow when we get back. It does have that kind of stuff. And people from here, they're proud to be from here. It's their city, it's their home, and I kind of get that Western Canadian culture. There's plenty to do if you want to get into it. Not a variety like down in South Florida that you kind of have the million options, but there's definitely places you can go see and get out and wander about, and there are some sightseeing spots that you go to and have a good time and enjoy it as much as you can.
All right, well, you enjoy it. We'll enjoy your broadcast of the game. Game one tonight, Edmonton and the Florida Panthers. Bill Lindsay, very insightful, very informative. But we can't thank you enough for getting up early with us on the show here and sharing your insights into what's going to transpire in the Stanley Cup Final. The Panthers going for, in a million years, you could have never expected a possibility of back-to-back Stanley Cups. Well, a long way, big drought there between that 96 final and these last three seasons. So best of luck. Bill, we can't thank you enough. It was great having you on the show. Great catching up with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, Defo. And it was a pleasure, man, to have you on. And everyone out there in South Florida country, we'll see if we can run it back here and get it done one more time against the Edmonton Oilers. Appreciate the time, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks so much.
We're getting down to the hours instead of the days, and soon the minutes. So I'm
going to be great. Looking forward to it as well. Thanks so much, Bill Lindsay, ladies and gentlemen, with us here on Conversations. Wow, that was a lot of fun. Bill Lindsay, been with the organization, as they say, the organization almost since its inception, with maybe just a small intermittent period there where he wasn't involved with the team. Been doing the television broadcast, radio broadcast. Gets to continue. That's a nice thing about being on the radio side of it, because the networks take over with the rights and broadcast the playoffs from the first round on. And the radio guys from the local team, anyway, in this case, the Florida Panthers, get a chance to go ahead and experience everything to its hopefully winning climax and back-to-back championships here for a team in South Florida would be a far cry from what we're getting from some of the other clubs right now in this area. All right, our thanks to Bill Lindsay, a little two-part series there, Ponies and Pucks. Frank Miramonte, great yesterday. Thank you, people, for the great response. If you haven't caught that interview, it was a great conversation with Frank, wide-ranging as things with Frank Miramonte tend to be, but he'll be on the call, Fox TV, for the Belmont Stakes. He's the Saratoga track announcer, ascended to the height, the ultimate pinnacle of his particular profession. And it's obviously some kind of a niche as well as how many track announcers are there employed in the country? A handful. And it's like NFL coaches or whatever. You got maybe 30 jobs. And sure enough, well, it's a little more than that, but yeah, he's got the two premier jobs, Santa Anita, Saratoga. So that was great yesterday. And Bill Lindsay, I thought that was terrific stuff today. So we thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again next week, the next episode of Conversations with Jeff DeForrest.